a little known fact. Women were among the very first to brew beer ever. From Mesopotamia to the Middle Ages to colonial America, women were the ones doing the brewing. Centuries later, how did the industry pay homage to the founding mothers of beer? They put us in bikinis. Wow.
Okay, so this is at the very heart of the issue when it comes to feminists talking about women and the betrayal of women in media. The fact that she says, what did they do? They put us in bikinis. They didn't put you in bikinis. She's saying they put women in bikinis. She's not even, okay, she's talking about women who, and citation needed for this, she's talking about the fact that women were among the first brewers in history of beer or whatever. Who gives a shit? But doesn't matter who started it. But this idea that, how did the industry honor women who invented beer? They put us in bikinis. Number one, you didn't invent beer just because you're a woman. Number two, just because you're a woman, they didn't put you in bikinis. They hired models to advertise their beer because sex sells. You know, like what prostitution? They always say, you know, sex work is the oldest profession in the world. So it's always been understood men like women and they will pay attention to an attractive woman. And that way you can sell your product to them. It has nothing to do with the innovation or invention of beer. It has nothing to do with Ilana Glazer walking around. You know, like this is what I hate about feminist critiques. They always act like they're the ones being victimized. It's not about, well, these women were paid to do a job. This idea that, look at this shit. Look at all this. All these attractive women in bikinis. I can't believe it. We invented beer. We are the first mothers of beer. And you put us and the women who invented beer in bikinis. The rot is so deep at the core of feminism that all they have to do is say, men find women in bikinis attractive. Therefore, women are being harmed by it. They don't even have to say that. It's just implied that there's something inherently wrong with hiring models to sell beer. There's something inherently wrong with having women model in bikinis for it for some reason. They do this thing where I was watching a video from Mugen Lord and he brought this up about Anita Sarkeesian, how she had a video. And I actually remember this video. I actually didn't see a lot of her videos. I don't think I watched any of the women in gaming ones, but I saw her Bechdel test one. And my whole thing about that was, who gives a shit? Like, this isn't a test that anybody is signing up to take, but there's a Bechdel test about, you know, the whole idea of if there's a scene with two women in it, it fails the Bechdel test if the two women are talking about a man or stuff like that. And it's like, why is this the test for anything? Who cares? You have to be someone who's like gay or something to think it's something wrong about two women talking about a man, especially since most stories are involving relationships between men and women in one form or another. So of course they're going to be talking about a man. But anyway, so he was talking about another video of hers though, about body language in the male gaze. And it's funny how she was complaining about Catwoman's hip sway and how a female avatar or character in Destiny, the way she sat versus the way the man sat. Like, why would you want the woman to sit like the way the man sat? She might as well be a man at that point. And this is something I've talked about in videos before, where feminists want to be men, which is why they love trans women so much. Trans women mean more to feminists than actual women do, because they despise femininity. They see femininity as weak. They just think it's weak. They think the way they think men do about women and femininity. On the one hand, they know men find femininity attractive, but they also have this idea that men hate women for being weaker than them. So if a man says he's actually a woman, that's, you know, I said it, I had in a video where I said feminists want to be men, but I think actually feminists want to be trans women.
Body language in the male gaze, when it pretty much comes to how men and women are portrayed through stereotypes and how they behave. And she had a serious issue with it, especially with this clip regarding Catwoman and the Batman Arkham games.
Designed to make them exude sexuality for the entertainment of the presumed straight male player.
What the hell?
Catwoman from the Arkham series has a deeply exaggerated hip sway when she walks. In combination with her clothing and the game's camera angles, all of this is meant to drive the player's focus to her highly sexualized butt. In Resident Evil Revelations, Jill Valentine somehow manages to wiggle her whole body while she runs. In Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Evie Frye is a character who avoids falling into many of the sexualizing traps that some playable female characters do, but she still walks with an exaggerated hip sway.
The media allows Anita Sarkeesian to say things like, this was made for the entertainment of men, like that's inherently a bad thing. And no one pushes back against that. They just allow this insane woman to get so mad at a sexy character's walk in a video game that she made a whole series complaining about the portrayal of women in video games. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about how nobody is making Anita Sarkeesian sexy strut through a video game, but she's mad about it existing, as if because she's a woman, she has an authority over how women are portrayed, and that if they're portrayed in a way that men will find appealing, she has a right to shut it down. If she wants to complain about it, fine. But she literally, she's one of the main reasons why the Last of Us franchise has been destroyed, because that fucking clown, Druckmann, decided to listen to her. And they do this thing where they take something that's very simple, natural and human, humans finding other humans attractive, and finding particular things about a woman in a feminine walk, in the way she sits, and all these things that you find appealing. It's not even like you're whacking off to it or jerking off or whatever. You just happen to find it appealing. It looks nice while you're playing the game. They've taken that and they do this thing like Druckmann, who was talking about his fucking kid. I've got daughters and I don't want them seeing quiet and feeling like this was what a woman needs to be. Like, what does geek entertainment have to do with how a woman feels in real life? They've put the responsibility of a woman's sense of self-worth, her self-esteem, onto men, particularly guys who are just playing video games with sexy characters in them. These are fictional stories, fictional beings, and fictional heightened sense of, exaggerated reality. Big deal. Like, they don't like it on the one hand simply because they don't like men enjoying things. A lot of these feminists are gay, they're sex negative, so they just don't like men enjoying attractive feminine women. That's just one thing. They don't have a problem with objectification, like I always say. They just have a problem with the type of woman who's being objectified. They don't like, the blonde swimsuit model and that kind of thing. It's like another thing Mugen Lord pointed out. He had a clip of a comedian. I never heard of this guy, but this was funny. And, we've heard this in Manosphere and Red Pill kind of talked about this sort of thing. But anyway, the joke was pretty funny, where he's basically saying, hey, society makes you as a straight man feel like an asshole for expressing or talking about the things that you find attractive in women or whatever. So, you have, he's sitting there with a gay guy, his some friends, and the gay friend is like, I like muscular guys. Okay, cool. His female friend's like, I like tall guys. All right, cool. And then he's like, well, I like skinny women with big tits. And then he's attacked for that. And he's like, I'm not a tall guy, but I didn't look at my friend who said she wants tall guys and go, oh, of course, this whore wants, tall guy. He's the asshole for wanting a skinny woman with big tits. And I gotta watch that. I'm gonna find that clip because Mugen Lord cut it off, but apparently the woman was like, it's just messed up. Basically, she was saying it's messed up. I don't have big tits, and the fact that you like women with big tits, that harms me because my feelings are not being validated. Like, I don't have big tits, so you should want me. You shouldn't find value in a woman with big tits. You should find a value in me. So it's like, they had the Dove campaign, with the fat woman, the woman in the wheelchair, and the ugly whatever. But so one thing the woman in the wheelchair said, she was like, these things are not meant for you. They didn't make them for you. Look, you're confined to a wheelchair. That doesn't stop you from playing video games, but that's not what you're complaining about. You literally expect to be portrayed in a video game. Like a straight male gamer who wants to play a fantasy or action adventure game is supposed to want to play as a character in a fucking wheelchair for some reason. Like, what kind of sense does that make? Like, video games are not made for the self-esteem of women out there. They're just not. It's supposed to be it's primarily a male entertainment. It's supposed to be something that men and women can enjoy. Like I say, women can join in and enjoy it, but they don't get to decide how women are portrayed in it. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean you get to say, don't make them sexy because I don't like it. I don't like the idea that you're making me an object of desire. I'm not making you an object of desire. This is a fictional character who happens to be hot. we find that attractive. That has nothing to do with you. It has no bearing on you at all. But this is what I mean. It's like the Miller Lite ad, where Alana Glazer's like, they put us in bikinis. They didn't fucking put you in a bikini. They hired models to be in bikinis to sell the beer. You know, Catwoman walking all sexy is because Catwoman is a character in the Batman universe, in the DC comic universe, who's meant to be sexy. She exudes sexuality. So one of the best ways to show that is how she walks and her having a great ass, and a sexualized ass. She has a great fucking body. You know, that just happens to be it. But they don't value that because, again, they're jealous. They hate femininity. They hate it that because it appeals to men. But men are supposed to just playing a game, just minding their own business, living their own lives. They're supposed to validate women. And it's bullshit. And that's why the pushback is so great when they say stupid things like they try to invalidate what you want or what you complain about and your points by calling you an incel. Like that's supposed to be some kind of insult. But anyway, or also how they do this thing where they go, you don't know what a real woman looks like. People defending that hideous monstrosity in Fable are saying, you don't know what a real woman looks like. Look, asshole, you literally, all you have to do is look at the woman they modeled that hideous monstrosity off of, and you can see the difference. You don't have to, it's stupid anyway. It's just, they're not bright. They just want to complain, and they just want to push back. And so they do things like overstate harm, and then they do this thing where they pretend that there's something inherently wrong with men, so that if they like something, it's automatically bad. They can go fuck themselves, though. And you, as a gamer or a geek or anything, it's not your job to make women feel better about themselves. You know, you don't have to feel bad about it. They're going to keep attacking you, so you can just ignore them. Don't take them seriously. If these companies want to start making money, they need to stop listening to these feminists and these fucking teenagers on Twitter and actually respect their audience and stop treating entertainment like it's propaganda or a self-help course for women.